Hi, I still live here. Welcome to the second installment in our series of videos on the Batman Arkham series. Today, we're covering what many consider the best game of the foursome, Batman Arkham City. This game was released 2 years after the first, in 2011, and like I said, many consider it the best game of the series. Now, keep in mind that Asylum won 2009 Game of the Year, so this is incredibly massive praise on City. Now, before we get into it, I have a few things I have to go over again. I'll be talking throughout the entire video on my opinions about everything, and it's totally okay for you to disagree, but I need you to be civil in the comments. It's okay to scratch and pull hair, but throat punches are way too far. I still want to be friends after this, so let's allow each other to have differing opinions. Also, as I mentioned in the first video, I'm playing all of these games on the PlayStation 5 and the Return to Arkham collection. I'm playing each of these games on medium difficulty, as it's what I feel the majority of players will be playing on. It's totally fine if you want to play on easy or hard, but I'm no god gamer, and I want to be able to focus equally on the gameplay and the story, and medium allows me to do that well. Like the Arkham Asylum video, I'll be sectioning this off into different aspects of the game. Starting off with the story, we'll go into free-flow combat, stealth, traversal, gadgets, collectibles, boss battles, the Catwoman sections, and finally, overall nostalgia fact. So grab a blankie, get some snacks, stop by the bathroom, because this is the second installment of the Arkham series, Batman Arkham City. Starting off the story with a massive spoiler alert. If you haven't played the game yet and you don't want to know what happens, skedaddle. The game begins with Catwoman fighting a group of Two-Face's goons. She easily dispatches them and heads towards a vault in the room. As she's cracking the lock, Two-Face puts a gun to her head. It cuts to a sequence where Batman is talking to one Dr. Hugo Strange. We get flashbacks to Bruce Wayne being captured from a conference that he was holding in front of Arkham City, a new super prison located in the middle of Gotham. Designed to be a replacement for the Asylum, Arkham City allows the criminals to roam free inside its walls. It turns out that Batman was captured by Strange, who is acting as a warden of sorts for Arkham City. Strange reveals during this opening monologue that he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. The doctor leaves the room that Bruce is being held in, and he finally gets a view of where he is. Our hero is pushed through the facility and is finally brought to the front gates, where he is sent with the Penguin and subsequently knocked unconscious. Coming to, Penguin goes to strike Wayne, telling him that it's revenge against the Wayne family. Bruce easily counters, and after a short fight with Penguin and his men, he heads up to the rooftops having broken out of his cuffs. He calls down a capsule with his suit and, after getting dressed, puts a card into his cryptographic sequencer that he was able to attain from the prison. This allows him to hack into Strange's comms with his soldiers. Strange makes an announcement that Two-Face and his men are holding Catwoman at the courthouse. Batman heads down and finds the cat burglar dangling precariously over a huge vat of acid. Batman clears the room, but is shot in the chest by Two-Face. Needless to say, he was wearing armor, and the two vigilantes string Two-Face up over the acid. While asking Catwoman what she knows about a Protocol 10 that Strange had mentioned, a gunshot is fired through the window from the top of a nearby church. Batman heads over to investigate and finds Harley Quinn with a bunch of her armed men. It turns out that Harley and the Joker had kidnapped a doctor from the building to try and fix the Joker, as apparently he's still very sick from the events of Arkham Asylum. Harley leaves, and the gunmen take the rest of the docs hostage around the room. Batman takes them out with ease, and heads up to the top of the church tower. There, he finds a remote-controlled gun, and Joker comes over a nearby computer screen, beginning a countdown for a large amount of explosives in the room. Batman jumps through one of the windows, and he's able to get a lock on the signal used to control the gun. He tracks it to the Sionis steel mill, and he's able to enter the building through a smokestack. Batman makes his way into the building, finding that Joker's men have taken the kidnapped doctor to the smelting chamber, as she wasn't able to fix him. The Dark Knight is able to save the doc, however, the Joker orders his men to weld the door shut. Batman is able to jimmy up his remote electrical charge gadget to get himself out of the room. He finally gains access to the room that Joker is in, but before he's able to enter, he's stopped by one of Joker's henchmen, a former conjoined twin carrying a sledgehammer, nicknamed Mr. Hammer. After a short fight, Batman is able to enter the room. He finds Joker, flatlining in a wheelchair, with Harley Quinn mourning by his side. All of a sudden, he's ambushed from behind and forced to inhale some sort of gas. Harley knocks him out with her baseball bat, and when he comes to, He realizes that he's hooked up to a bag of blood. Joker explains that his blood is still tainted from the asylum, and it's actively killing him. Not only has he injected some of the toxic blood into Batman, but he's shipped his blood out to hospitals all over Gotham City. Joker challenges Batman to find Mr. Freeze, who was supposedly working on a cure before communications went dark. Joker kicks Batman out the window, but not before strapping his cell phone to the Dark Knight, so he can continue talking to his bestest friend. Batman decides to track Freeze, and finds that the police precinct is the coldest part of Arkham City. Batman enters it to find it abandoned, aside from Penguin's men. He clears the room and interrogates one of the thugs, finding out that Freeze was taken by Penguin to the museum. Batman heads there, but finds he is unable to enter due to satellites set up around the building that are scrambling the signal for his sequencer. Batman tracks and destroys all of the satellites and enters the museum. He enters to find that Penguin has found 8 undercover cops that were working in his gang, and he's taken them hostage throughout the museum. Batman tracks Penguin to a large open room, covered in ice. The crime lord appears at the other end of the room and uses Freeze's gun to freeze 2 of the cops who are trying to escape along the ice. Penguin retreats to his iceberg lounge, and Batman is able to save the 2 frozen cops, fighting off Penguin's pet shark, Tiny, along the way. Batman follows into the lounge, only to find that he can't get to Penguin without being hit by the freeze gun. He decides he needs to find Freeze, who can give him an override for the weapon. He heads to one of the side rooms to find Freeze locked up, but before he can free the man, he's ambushed by Penguin's men, along with Mr. Hammer's conjoined brother, Sickle. Batman wins out in the fight and lets Freeze out. He reveals that Penguin took his suit, and without it, he can't override the freeze gun, let alone survive. Batman tracks the suit down. Unfortunately, it's cased in a room where Penguin happens to be holding more of the police hostages. The Bat takes them out and gets the override from Freeze's suit. He heads back to the lounge and manages to get to Penguin, giving the foul a swift uppercut to the jaw. As a last resort, Penguin blows up the iceberg lounge and drops Batman to the basement level of the museum. Here, it is revealed that Penguin has Solomon Grundy locked up and resurrects the Beast in order to take out Batman. After an intense battle, Batman is able to incapacitate Grundy once again. Penguin drops down with a rocket launcher to try and finish the job, but the Caped Crusader is easily able to toss the villain aside. Batman takes Penguin and meets up with Freeze in the main hall. There, Freeze reveals that he had synthesized a cure. However, it couldn't survive long enough to actually benefit the host. He mentions that if they could find an enzyme that could heal itself, then the cure could work. Batman tells Freeze about Ra's al Ghul, which, by the way guys, there are conflicting pronunciations, so I'm just going to copy how they say it in the game. There might be other ways to say it. I'm probably wrong, but please don't get mad at me. I'm just going off the game. And just then, one of Ghul's assassins, who was pretending to be a presentation behind glass, presumably for intel reasons, breaks out and curses Batman for talking about Al Ghul. The assassin cuts herself on the glass, however, and Batman is able to follow the trail of blood. The assassin turns it around on the Bat, as she joins up with 2 of her fellow assassins. Robin shows up, prepared to take them out, but Batman tells him to let them go, as he has secretly put a tracker on the back of one of the assassins. Batman tracks the hired killer to an underground system called Wonderworld. He continues through the system and finally gets to the end, where he finds Talia al Ghul, Raish's daughter, who scolds him for not calling her back after a night together in Metropolis. She goes to kiss the Bat, but stops when she sees his face and realizes how sick he is. He tells her that he wants to take over the League of Assassins, and she escorts him down to the beginning of the tests. Batman completes these tasks and finally comes to the final portion: kill Raish. Obviously, with Batman being Batman, he doesn't, but he does knock the old man out after a short hostage situation with his own daughter. What the fuck? Batman takes a sample of his blood and heads back to the police precinct. There, he finds Freeze again, who integrates the blood into the cure. He produces 2 vials of the cure, one of which he promptly destroys. He tells Batman that the Clown Prince has taken his wife, and he won't give Batman the cure unless he's able to get Nora back. Batman is not in the mood to be tested though, and the 2 square off. Side note, this is, in my opinion, the best boss fight in the entire series. I'll talk more about it later, but it's absolutely incredible. Batman takes out Mr. Freeze and goes to get the cure from a safe that Freeze had put it in, but comes to find that Harley had stolen the cure from the other side of the vault. Freeze, still with a vendetta against the Joker, provides Batman with his freeze grenades. Batman leaves the precinct, just as a helicopter holding reporter Vicky Vale is shot down. He then goes and saves Vale from the Joker's snipers and heads back to the steel mill. Strange announces over the comms that Protocol 10 will begin in half an hour, and Batman finds the Joker. He looks to be completely healthy again, back to 100%. He then brings his goons in and initiates a fight with Batman. The Dark Knight once again takes out the thugs, along with Mr. Hammer and a Titan goon, but he's buried in rubble from the crumbling building. The Joker pulls out a knife, ready to make the Dark Knight pay, when, all of a sudden, Talia al Ghul shows up. She promises to show the Joker the secret to immortality in exchange for leaving Batman in the mill. The Joker accepts, and the two head off, but not before Talia activates a tracking device so that Batman will be able to follow. The game then cuts to Catwoman, who, after meeting briefly with Ivy, convinces the villainess to help her break into Strange's vault, as one of Ivy's plants is being stored there. Catwoman heads over and is assisted by Ivy, ripping the walls of the facility open with her vines. Catwoman stealthily takes out the guards and attains their key cards. She enters the vault and immediately throws Ivy's plant on the ground. She finds 2 briefcases filled with money and begins to leave. Before she does, however, she sees a feed showing Batman covered in the rubble. This leaves her with a difficult choice. Leave Arkham City, as well as the Bat, and retire to Gotham? Maybe take some time off? Relax with her money. Or she could go and help Batman, giving up the money for now, but giving him a fighting chance. She leaves with the money, never to be seen again. Kidding. She goes to help Batman, lifting the rubble off of him and allowing him to go after Strange. Might I add, she barely lifted anything, but whatever. Batman exits the mill just in time to see Protocol 10 begin. Missiles are launched all across Arkham City, and it becomes apparent what Protocol 10 was supposed to be. Complete annihilation of the prisoners within Arkham City. Oracle convinces Batman that he needs to go stop Strange before he can find Talia, and it's revealed that Batman needs to get the codes to Wonder Tower, the building in which Strange is operating out of, to be able to get in. Batman is able to attain the codes from one of the helicopters above the city, and he heads into Wonder Tower. After scaling the outside of the tower in order to avoid attention, Batman is able to take out all of the guards on the top floor, the only one left being Strange himself. He accesses the room that Strange is in and roughs him up a little bit. He then connects Oracle's network to the server inside of the room to stop the missile strikes. He then forces Strange to look out the window and watch all of the destruction that he has caused, but the Doctor shows no remorse. He begins talking about how he has very powerful allies who will allow his work to continue. Before he can continue his sentence, Hugo Strange is impaled by the sword of none other than Ra's al Ghul. It is revealed that Ra's was backing Strange, wanting to make the world over. Start anew, if you will. Hugo had partnered with Ra's with the intention of taking his place as the next head of the League of Assassins. Ra's explained that Strange failed him, and that he would not be honoring their deal as a result. Ra's once again offers Batman a partnership, working together in a quest to set the world straight. Batman declines, and Hugo Strange interrupts them to make a final statement. Activate Protocol 11. Password, Wayne. A countdown engages on a few of the monitors around the room. Batman checks Ra's through a window. The two freefall for a little bit, and Ra's impales himself with his own sword before being impaled once again by a fence spike. Batman glides to safety, but the damage has already been done. Hugo Strange is dead, Ra's al Ghul might be as well, and Protocol 10 is done for good. That's not where the story ends though, as our old friend Joker projects himself to Batman, announcing that he's holding Talia hostage at the Monarch Theater, which just so happens to be the same place where Thomas and Martha were gunned down. Batman arrives and takes out the snipers posted outside. He enters the building and finds the Joker holding a gun to Talia's head. The Joker asks Batman for the cure, which causes some confusion as Batman had thought the Joker had already taken it. Talia is able to take advantage of the distraction, and she breaks out of the Joker's grip, stabbing him and seemingly killing him. She reveals to Batman that she was able to intercept Harley and steal the cure back. Batman thinks back through all of the events that occurred throughout the night, wondering once again how Joker could have gotten better so quickly without even taking the cure. Talia is shot in the back, and Batman realizes there were two Jokers the entire time. The real Joker comes out of the shadows, revealing that he is indeed very much still sick. As Batman tends to Talia, the dead Joker begins to rise once again, revealing that it was Clayface the entire time. The two get into a grueling fight, with Batman coming out on top, thanks to some surprisingly wicked sword skills. Joker decides to blow up the floor, revealing that the theater was above the Lazarus Pit the entire time. Batman and Clayface fall down below, and Batman is once again able to best the monster. He drinks half of the potion, leaving the other half to synthesize more antidote for the citizens of Gotham. Clayface falls into the Lazarus Pit, and the combination of his matter with the chemicals of the pit create an explosion that knocks Batman out briefly. When he comes to, the Joker tells Batman that he knows he'll provide the Joker with the cure, even after all of the awful things they've been through. All of a sudden, the Joker ambushes Batman from behind, stabbing him and making him drop the vial of the cure. The Clown Prince desperately tries to sop up any of the remaining liquid that he can. Batman states that the Joker was indeed correct. He still would have given them the cure, even after all of the terrible things he's done. The Joker acknowledges the humor of the situation, lays down with a smile on his face, and finally takes his last breath. Batman walks out of the theater, holding the Joker in his arms. He walks to a cop car, lays the Joker on the hood, and walks away, leaving cops and criminals alike stunned. Mic drop. Absolute shock. This is, in my opinion, the best story of the whole series. I love how it's able to juggle two incredibly cohesive storylines back and forth. They certainly mesh at some points, but they end in their own completely unique ways. The Joker storyline was probably the better of the two, in my opinion. If you have to kill off a character like the Joker, please do it this way. This saga shows the connection that the Joker and Batman have, maybe more literally than in any other story, but I appreciate that it's there. The Joker shows complete and utter control throughout, even as he's in an incredibly dire situation. He forces his rival into the same situation and forces Batman to do all of the work. Even while you're dealing with Ra's al Ghul or Mr. Freeze, the Joker is always a looming threat in the back of your head. When is he going to show up next? What's he going to do to cause Batman more pain? The twist at the end was just genius. It's enough to know something is up, but I don't think many of us would have suspected Clayface, as he had only briefly made an appearance in Asylum. The idea of Arkham City is still a bit far-fetched, in my opinion, but, if it were to happen, I think it would go down exactly like it did in the game. There would be gang wars, all fighting to control their territory and establish dominance. I love that they brought in so many awesome side characters without it feeling overcrowded. Even though Two-Face only makes a brief appearance, it fits his character so well, and we get a great idea of how he operates inside the prison. If I'm being honest, the Hugo Strange storyline was somewhat disappointing. I was hoping they would do more with him knowing Batman's identity. They dangle the candy in front of us at the beginning, but they never build on it, and he doesn't even threaten it again. The race twist is good enough, but the overall character of Strange is just so anticlimactic, right down to the final fight at Wonder Tower. It's just disappointing. But overall, I can't complain. The Joker was handled beautifully, and it was an engaging story. The locations were intriguing and unique. Speaking of locations, Rocksteady built heavily on the open world in this game. It outsizes the Asylum map tenfold. Arkham City feels grimy and tough, exactly as I would expect it to be, with all of the crime around. The open world is well thought out, with a few locations such as the Steel Mill and Wonder Tower feeling like centerpieces. Other locations, like Scarecrow's Oceanside hideout, are well thought out, and it shows an awesome attention to detail that was able to come over from Asylum. The open world was definitely their focus, and I can say that it was for good reason. It improves the experience significantly, and it's a great addition to the core gameplay. A+ for the story section. Alright, moving over to the free flow. There are vast improvements in this department. There are so many new animations that make the gameplay feel so much more fluid. In Asylum, you would occasionally get the same animation twice in the same fight. Here, you'll be finding new animations all the way to the end of the game, potentially even part of the way through a second playthrough. They also fixed many of the issues with getting stuck in the animations, as you can now cancel a punch in order to counter another goon, which produces so much frustration when it comes to losing your combos. Not to mention the improved AI. The one-at-a-time syndrome that would often cloud Asylum has been improved a ton. Enemies can now attack you at the same time, and you can do a double counter to take them both out. It just adds so much to the realism when you have 3 guys attacking you all at the same time, instead of 8, just patiently waiting their turn to get the shit kicked out of them. The devs also changed how you take out knife-wielding enemies. Now, you can dodge the slashes and just take them out like regular enemies. This reserves stuns and beatdowns for the new armored enemies, and a few of the mini-bosses such as Mr. Hammer and Sickle. The added enemy types, along with the variation in how you have to take them down, is an awesome addition. It provides so much more replay value, and the combat in Arkham City is hands down the best to this point in the series. Moving on to stealth, not much has really changed, but it feels different. I think this has more to do with the wider variety of locations and setups for the stealth than the gameplay itself, but it really does make a difference. The basic stealth is the same as Asylum. Use vantage points to glide down on unsuspecting goons and take them out, while avoiding the view of others. A basic premise that can definitely still be repetitive. I think back specifically to taking out the satellites in the museum portion of the game as a point where I was just done with the stealth and the whole idea of going in quietly. After this though, it felt to me like they significantly peeled back the amount of sneaky sequences that they had, and it greatly contributed to my enjoyment of the later game. Settings like the police precinct and Wonder Tower were unique enough to stand out, as they were unlike any of the previous settings in Arkham Asylum. As I stated with the last game, I highly suggest trying to put restrictions on yourself in regards to using detective vision and your grapple gun. Having to get by using only your brain and your selectable gadgets just makes the experience so much more interesting and challenging. The only real saving grace in the stealth sections is the fact that they were able to introduce a few new enemy types, specifically for these sections. First, we have the enemies that have blockers on your detective vision. I'm so happy that they added this into the game. As mentioned above, playing without detective vision is a huge boost to the difficulty, and it grants the game another leg to stand on. I still wish it was always like this, but Santa doesn't come in March. They also added enemies that will scan gargoyles to find you. Occasionally, they'll also shoot the vantage points down, permanently taking them out of commission. These enemy types are great. It really shows that the devs were listening to feedback from Asylum, and my only criticism is that they aren't in the game more. Overall, definitely some improvement, but it still has a ways to go to be able to match the addictiveness of the free flow. Hey, would you look at that? Traversal actually matters in this one. Because of the large, open city, you get a much better idea of how moving around as Batman actually works. The same basic principles apply. Grapple to a building, glide off of them, you know the gist. But in Arkham City, you can do what's called the grapple boost, which allows you to build up more speed on your grapples and launch yourself into the air off of them. That's all they added. It's not bad per se. It works, and I don't think it ever felt super tedious to me, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. Not a hassle, but not overly enjoyable, makes for an unspectacular experience in this regard. I hoped that with the new open world, the devs would attempt to innovate on this. It's a short meh. Moving on to gadgets. We have many holdovers from the first game, with a few additions that do add a little bit. First new gizmo we have is the remote electrical charge. This can be used to activate technological devices and open doors among other things. In combat, it acts sort of like a taser, where it makes the recipient unable to control their arms and legs. Like with most gadgets, if you quickfire, it works well in combat, but it's not a game breaker by any means. I see it as extra padding, as Asylum was somewhat lacking on the side of gadgets. The second new device you get access to is the freeze grenade. This is an awesome addition, as you can throw it at enemies to freeze them solid. This makes it so that they can't move, and you can knock them out way easier if you hit them with this first. Their allies can break them from the ice, but it takes time, and you can use this knowledge to separate thugs off during stealth sequences. You can also throw these grenades onto water to make a little ice platform. This is how you re-enter the steel mill, and it's an interesting change to the status quo. Once again, the line launcher, explosive gel, backclaw, cryptographic sequencer, and, of course, the batarang come back for this game. They all operate in the exact same way that they did last time, and they're all equally as effective. Collectibles are a thing again, and I am dead inside. Once again, we have two main kinds of collectibles, trophies and riddles. The fact that the map is so much bigger benefits the trophies considerably. It's not nearly as easy to find them, and the extra space is beneficial as the devs could be more creative with some of the puzzles surrounding them. In order to get all of the Riddler trophies, you'll need to think outside the box and be creative with how you use your gadgets. Most of the trophies are at least a challenge to get, and there are a few that might actually stump you. The riddles return again as well, and I was actually somewhat underwhelmed by them. I don't really know why, as just like Asylum, they reference the greater Batman lore, but it felt like there were considerably less of them, and they almost felt more like a scavenger hunt than a riddle. Collectibles are once again fine. If you're normally into them, you'll be into them in this game. If not, this shouldn't really be something that you worry about. Play the game as you want. Boss battles are redeemed. This is not up for debate. Batman Arkham City has some of the best boss battles in the entire series, maybe even just in all of video games. The crowning jewel has to be, as mentioned before, the Mr. Freeze fight. Because of Freeze's gun, you can't take him head on, but you can't stealth it like you normally would either. You have to take him down in 5 unique ways, as once you take him down in a specific way, he'll alter the arena to make sure that you can't do it again. For example, if you perform a silent takedown on him from behind, he'll activate jets on the back of his suit that will burn you if you try to get behind him again. Or if you perform a ledge takedown, he'll use his gun to freeze all of the railings so that you can't grip onto them. Don't think that you can just hide and use time to your advantage. Freeze will scan the heat signature from your footprints and use them to follow you. If he can no longer find where you are, he'll release these projectile drone thingies that will explode if they get close to you. But not only does Freeze shoot them at you, he shoots them at where he thinks you are going to be, meaning that he can intercept you as you're running. The AI is insanely intelligent, and the overall uniqueness of the fight makes it stand out so much. This is what boss battles are supposed to be. A test of previously learned skills, and an attempt to push your limits and use your brain. And this forces you to think critically about the situation. I also love that there's more than 5 possible takedowns that you can perform on Freeze, so it makes you feel like your analysis is important and valuable to the situation. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Ha! Get it? I'll see myself out. The Ra's al Ghul fight and the Clayface fight are awesome as well. The Clayface fight focuses on using the quick-fire freeze grenades to wear him down, and once you fully freeze him, you get to use a sword. This is the first time up to this point in the series that Batman has been able to wield a melee weapon, and it's a great feeling. Clayface has a wide variety of attacks, and it's overall just such an upgrade over the Joker from last game. This is what you want in a final boss. It seems like most of the major boss fights in this game use a different quickfire mechanic, and it really makes each fight feel fresh and new. Against Ra's al Ghul, you're required to use the quickfire electro charge, and when you're fighting Solomon Grundy, you have to use the quickfire explosive gel, which I don't think anyone knew was a thing before the fight. I love the fact that you can tell there was extra effort put into these fights. The devs once again took the criticism that fans had towards the last game and made huge improvements. I really do think that the boss fights are the best part of this game, and that's saying much more about how fresh and unique each fight feels than it does about the rest of the game. A++ for this one. Alright, so I touched on it a bit during the story synopsis, but there are large sections of the game where you play as Catwoman, as long as you purchase the DLC. This is an incredibly interesting mechanic as it allows them to intertwine 2 connected storylines through a game that already operates within 2 major interconnected storylines. It's a bit of a mindfuck, but it works well enough. The Catwoman sections are relatively short, which I think is a big saving grace. On the one hand, it's nice to play as her, as she has a super different playstyle and way of fighting. On the other hand, she feels like a shell of a character, at least gameplay-wise. Other than the free flow, which I think is pretty good for the most part, her stealth feels really clunky to play. Instead of using vantage points, she can like jump up and hang off these metal wire frames on the ceiling. I mean, it works, I guess, but it just ends up feeling weird and difficult to control in my opinion. And don't even get me started on her gadgets. I can't think of a single gadget that is actually useful in combat or stealth. I find myself just rushing the enemies most of the time because Catwoman feels so one-dimensional to play. I just wanted to get the sequences over as quickly as possible so I could get back to playing as Batman. I really love the idea, and I'd love to see them try something like this again, but it missed the mark a bit here. I will say though that this DLC opened the door for them utilizing more unique characters in later games, which is pretty great. I give it an even C. Oh, we made it. Almost 6,000 words later, we come to the conclusion. What are my thoughts on the game? It is the best. Well, maybe not the best, but one of them for sure. Even though Asylum is my favorite game of all time, there's no denying that this is the best in the series, and one of the undisputed best video games of the 21st century so far. That's big, I know. It takes the excellent base that Asylum provided and juices it to the extreme. The improved combat system, the movie quality story, and the fucking boss fights combined to make this an experience like no other. In my opinion, there is not a single bad quality to this game. There are just things that are less good. That alone should show you the pedestal that I have this game on. I think mine is a relatively common feeling, but there are certainly some people that think the other games are better, and that's okay. But it is my professional opinion that this is the ultimate Batman experience. If you have to play only one game in the series, play this one. You will not regret it. If there was something that you think I missed with this retrospective, please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, it would mean a ton. And finally, thank you for watching my retrospective on the second installment of the Arkham series, Batman Arkham City.